Hi everyone, welcome back again to the channel and to a new video. Today I'm going to give you my thoughts about FreeBSD. If you remember, a few months ago I did an installation video about FreeBSD, and since then I'm using it fairly often, and in this video I'm going to give you my thoughts and my impressions about it. So without further ado, let's get going. Hi guys, so here we are on the FreeBSD Desktop. So first I want to apologize if my face is looking in several directions. I have the video camera here between two monitors, so I'm trying to look at one monitor where FreeBSD is, and the other one when I have some information for you. So this is not a tutorial. I'm not going to install FreeBSD from scratch. I already have a video on that on the channel. I want to just give you my impression here of FreeBSD because I've been using this now for a while, and I've been installing this on several machines, laptops, desktops. Now to show you this, I installed this on Virtualbox because I can record very well the screen and have the camera good quality, etc., etc. So I will give you my impressions of FreeBSD anyway. I installed it on several machines, as I said before. So a general impression that I have about FreeBSD after using it for a while is that it's a very solid operating system, and it feels really stable. I don't know how to explain this in words, but it feels really compact. So when you're using FreeBSD, you really feel everything comes from one place only. And I guess this connects to the fact that compared to Linux, where basically a GNU Linux distribution is composed by the Linux kernel and then the distributions provide the rest. Here on FreeBSD, you get everything from one source basically. So every package that you see here on FreeBSD is packaged by FreeBSD itself, so by the developer of FreeBSD. You have basically and mostly the same software that you find on a Linux distribution. It just feels that everything is coming down from one source only for everything, which makes the system somehow more compact. Now, there are some differences, of course, between Linux and FreeBSD. They are both Unix-like operating systems, but for example, FreeBSD does not have actually an init system per se. It doesn't have run levels. It has instead a BSD style run level, so to say. So everything is in a XC directory under the RC directory, where you have a configuration file with several scripts, and when the computer boots, it reads basically those scripts where the services needed to be started are there. So there is one place basically where everything is starting up. There is no systemd, there is no init, there is no system5, and so on. So this makes it in a way very simple to configure because you just have to configure one file, and basically that's it for these kind of things. So FreeBSD feels, as many people write also on the internet, monolithic. That means everything is one block. So you get everything in one. You get the kernel, you get the packages, you get everything. Whereas in a Linux distribution, you have, of course, the Linux kernel, and you get everything else from the distribution. So this is one big difference, but there are also many other differences. And let me show you here, for example, if I open up a terminal. This is, by the way, XFCE, which I installed from scratch in FreeBSD. I customized it a little bit. You know me, I'm not someone who customizes the desktop that much anyway, but I just gave it a little bit of polish here and there, and to me this is enough anyway. And let me clean up the terminal here. And let me go full screen also so that you can see better if I increase the font size. And let me type in here cat/etc/fstab to have a look at the fstab file. So you see, for example, here already a difference. The file system type in this case, in this installation that I have done, is actually UFS. So UFS is actually the Unix file system. It's one of the oldest active file systems, and it was developed in the early 80s, I think. And today UFS is still the default file system in FreeBSD, but of course it's not the original version. It has been now enhanced, etc., etc. There is also another possibility to have FreeBSD installed with ZFS. So during the installation, you can choose actually whether you want to have UFS or ZFS. And probably the next time I'm going to install FreeBSD, I'm going to do it via the ZFS file system because it has more features. It was actually implemented by Sun initially, And it has several other features like pool management, data integrity, and performance improvements as well. So if you're installing FreeBSD from scratch, definitely go with ZFS. I think you'll have more advantages there. But you can see here I have UFS and a swap partition basically. I would say another big difference is the packaging system. So we have here in FreeBSD what's called PKG, where you can install packages. And the PKG package manager is very strong, actually. It's very solid. So what you would do, for example, to install something here in FreeBSD would be something like sudo and then pkg install and then the package name that you want to install, basically. Now, just a note here, I'm installing with sudo and not doas, which is actually another package that has a sudo functionality. I'm using sudo because doas actually in FreeBSD does not implement the persist option. So if I use doas, I will have to type the password every time I use doas pkg install, which is annoying. So I rather use sudo because it does not ask me the password every single time. And install is, for example, the option to install a package. If you're searching for something, let's search, for example, let's type in search and the package name. Let's search for simple screen recorder, for example, and hit enter here. I need to enter the password once and it's going to search it and you can see it found it. So I could actually go ahead and install it. So it's very simple to install packages here, absolutely no problem, but the packaging system feels very solid. Now, to update the distribution itself, there is another command for this, which is sudo freebsd -update fetch. You would fetch first the updates and it will check if there are any. And if so, in this case, there are none. But if so, you would pull up the last command and replace fetch with install to upgrade your system. So that's basically it for the main functionality. It's very simple, it's very straightforward, and it feels really compact, as I said before. Now, boot times and shutdown times are a little bit slower than a Linux distribution, but that personally doesn't bother me that much anyway. What I find it's a little bit challenging here in FreeBSD is actually installing on hardware, specifically on laptops. I actually had some issues with one of the laptops I have here, which is a Tuxedo laptop, nothing fancy. It has an Intel integrated card. It's a UEFI system, and I had to fiddle around with that to find a way actually on how to use the video drivers because it's a UEFI system. Then I found out on the wiki that you have to use the frame buffer driver, which does not actually have 3D acceleration. Maybe I missed something in there, but I managed actually to make it work, but it was not really the optimal solution, I have to say. Now, I don't have any other laptops here to try out other drivers, so I cannot really say how that will work. But on a desktop machine, old desktop machine that I have, it worked actually out of the box with no problem. Right now here in Virtualbox is working absolutely fine. And I have to actually say also another thing is the wiki, the handbook for FreeBSD is excellent. You find every sort of information in there. Let me close this window and power up here Firefox. And let me search for example, FreeBSD. Let's go to XFC. This is the desktop environment I installed, for example. So let me change this to English and I'll go to desktop environments. So here you can see it explains you basically how you can install GNOME, how you can install, I think, KDE, there you go, and how you can install XFC. So it's very simple. It's very, very clearly written. For example, to install, oops, sorry, I clicked here something. For example, to install here GNOME, you just install the GNOME 3 package with the package manager. If you want to use the ports and compile the software, you can do that as well. Then you need just to mount one directory in the fstab file and enable the dbus and halt here in the rc.conf file. And then enable also in the same file the GDM and the GNOME services. And that's it. And then basically you just boot up and GNOME is working out of the box. Now, there are some actually issues that I had with the GNOME desktop environment and also here in XFCE that I noticed a few days ago. Some of the icons have some glyphs or they come out funny. And I read in the forums that this is a bug actually in the packages and it's probably going to be taken care of very soon. So nothing scary there. And the same goes for KDE, for example. You just install KDE 5, mount one directory, enable the same services in the rc.conf file. SDDM is already also included in the package here. and then you'll have XFC, sorry, KDM. And I keep clicking something here. There you go. And by XFC, it's the same. You just install the package. You have also the XFC goodies package, and you can also install also LightDM. And this is what I did here. And you can enable also the debug service in the rc.com file. And the same goes also for the lightdm underscore enable, always in the rc.com file. And don't forget to install also the lightdm GTK greeter, otherwise it won't work. And then you will have XFC up and running. So then I installed here in this machine, particularly I installed the Materia theme, which is also available in the repositories, as well as the Papyrus icon theme. And this is how I got these icons here looking like this. And I just installed also the Whisker menu here on the bottom, which is also available in the repositories. I have here also a standard panel, which actually I didn't configure that much. And I downloaded some wallpapers from the repository as well. You can look them up in the FreeBSD repositories. But what I wanted to show you also is the FreeBSD. If we go to the website here, freebsd.org, and there is here somewhere, let me check if I find it, the documentation, I think, and you have the handbook. So this basically explains you everything, how you can install FreeBSD, if you have troubles with network, with other things, accounts, time zone, services, and hardening, and so on. You have everything here. And I read actually not all of it, didn't have to, but I read through some of the pages, for example, to configure the sound system, because I had some issues here in VirtualBox. And also the desktop environments, because I didn't know how to configure those. And I have to say this wiki is really nicely written, and it's very easy to understand. For example, let's go here to the Xorg configuration. If you have any problem with Xorg, you can come down here. So quick start Xorg supports most common video cards, keyboards, and pointing device, and so on. And it explains you what to do step by step. So it's very simple to read. It's very easy to understand as well. And if you have any problem also, I definitely recommend you to go also to the forums, to the FreeBSD forums. They are absolutely great. You find really some nice people there. If you have any issue with FreeBSD, there will be someone to help you out there. So all in all, I've been using now FreeBSD for the last, I think, month or so. Not every single day, because I'm doing most of the work on Arch, as you know, on my main machine. But I've done, beside Garuda, what I used on a laptop, I used the other desktop. Now it's here on VirtualBox, FreeBSD for other tasks, and I had absolutely zero issue with it. My feeling about FreeBSD is I really like FreeBSD as an operating system, and I say here as an operating system, not as a distribution, because it's not. It's an operating system. It's really nice. It's really solid. It comes down from one place only. It's very compact, as I said at the beginning of the video, and I definitely recommend you to try it out. It's, even you don't like it, you need to try it out to just to get the feeling on how the difference is with GNU Linux distributions. So as I said, Linux is the kernel, and then we have the GNU system, which makes the rest, and then we have our distributions like Arch, like Debian, like Ubuntu. They are all derivative of the GNU Linux system. Now, another thing is that we have an upcoming version, which is the 13.00. The one I have installed is 12.2, which was actually released just a few weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, or a few days ago. I'm looking forward to see also what comes in the version 13. Anyway, when I started out with Linux, I didn't know FreeBSD. I just knew the name, but I didn't know the OS. So actually, I'm really happy that I tried it out. And I will keep it in one of my machines, because I'm curious to see how how it evolves and what new releases will bring, etc., etc. Thing is, FreeBSD is really, I personally feel, based on stability. So you will not probably have the hottest features that you have on a Linux distribution. But if you want to enjoy a free, stable, compact, and very solid operating system, FreeBSD is definitely worth a try. It takes some time maybe to get used to it. If you're coming from Linux, most of the commands are working also in FreeBSD, but the system is managed differently because you have a centralized operating system, so to say. So it feels a little different, but if you're coming from Linux, some commands will be very simple. You will have similar commands, and the software itself, the packages themselves are, most of the names also are very similar to the Linux distributions. If you're coming from Windows or Mac OS, well, Mac OS, I mean, it's part based on FreeBSD, so beside the graphical interface, which is completely different, of course, but if you have dealt with Mac OS on the terminal, you know what I'm talking about. FreeBSD is anyway, part of FreeBSD is also in there. If you're coming from Windows, this is going to be for sure a little bit different. You will have to learn more about the operating system structure and so on. But if you want to try it out, I will definitely say go give it a try. It's really a nice OS. The only thing you might have to consider is that configuring hardware in here can be a little bit difficult depending on the hardware you have. So you have to try it out and see. My suggestion is try it out first on a virtual machine. You can try this on Virtualbox. There is actually also a Virtualbox Wiki for FreeBSD, which I followed when I installed it here on Virtualbox. And you can see here FreeBSD as a guest in this case. So I'm just going to click here, and then it tells you basically what you need to do. You need to install the VirtualBox additions from the repositories and then enable these two services in the rc.com file, which is the file, as we said before, that checks the scripts when the machine boots. And that's all I had to do. One thing though, if you're trying this in VirtualBox on Linux, remember to actually change the video driver. Let me show you what I mean. Let me pull over here my VirtualBox from Arch Linux. And if I go here, this is FreeBSD. If I go under settings and under display, you need to have VBox VGA or VBox SVGA, because if you're choosing I think it's VM, I think it's the name of the other driver, virtual machine driver, it's not going to be able to scale the display. So you will have to go with VBox SVGA or with VBox VGA and disable 3D acceleration. And there is a reason for that that I read. Now I can't remember exactly what was that, but it's because I think the virtual machine driver cannot assign a number to the display or some sort of explanation like that, and that's why it cannot go full screen. So you select VBox VGA or VBox SVGA, and the scaling will work absolutely fine. As you can see here, this is at 1080p and it's scaling perfectly fine. So once you have VirtualBox installed and you install FreeBSD in here, you can test it out. You can see how you feel about it, and then you can decide for yourself whether you want to, keep it on a virtual machine and try it out until you feel comfortable with it, or if you're ready to go and try it out on real hardware. It's really up to you. For me personally, I will stick with Arch Linux. As you know already, I love Arch Linux. It's my favorite Linux distribution, and I probably will stick with it for the rest of the time I will have a PC. But that doesn't mean, and I don't feel blocked to trying out other Linux distributions or other operating systems like FreeBSD. On the contrary, I'm very curious and I encourage everybody to have a look, because it's the nice thing that we have in open source software, the ability to choose whatever we want to use. And I think FreeBSD, it's a fantastic operating system, and I will also have always an eye to it. Anyway, this is my take on FreeBSD. I will keep using it, as I said, for a while, and if I come up with something else that I notice, I will definitely do another video about it. If you guys are interested in an installation video for FreeBSD, how you can build, for example, the KD desktop environment or XFC desktop environment, let me know in the comments below. I can definitely do that, maybe in a live stream, because I have already a video on the channel on how to install FreeBSD. I think with KDE, that's what I've done there. But we can try to install it also with GNOME or XFCE if you want to. We can try that. Or I think they have also BSPWM as a window manager. So if you are interested in that, let me know in the comments below. And if you try out FreeBSD, let me know how it worked for you. I'm curious to know your opinion as well. And if you have any question, also let me know in the comments below. I will definitely answer you as soon as I can. So this is my impression about FreeBSD. It's a nice operating system. I really like it, and I will keep using it for a while on my side desktop machine here. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you very soon in the next video.